today's video, I'm going to be talking to you guys about a couple of books that I think are worth the hype, not worth the hype, and I think are underrated. Hi, if you're new to my channel, my name is Fee, and if you like all things books and gaming, then this is the channel for you. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking to you guys about a couple of books that I think are worth the hype, not worth the hype, and books that I think are underrated. This is just my opinion. I know that some books are very important to people, so I would never sort of slate a book or anything like that because it's hurt my feelings before now. I will be honest, when people have completely slated a book that I have absolutely loved. So there will be none of that. This is just my opinion, and the reasons that some of the books maybe just didn't sit well with me, that sort of thing, or yeah. That is it, basically. The awkward part out of the way, I'm going to be doing books that I think are overrated. Starting off with a thriller, and that is The Silent Patient. I read this one about 2 years ago. I saw it absolutely everywhere, so I was very much intrigued to get to this one. However, when I finished it, I think I rated this one 3 stars. I did really enjoy the concept of this one. However, there were certain parts that I wish that there was just more of. I really enjoyed parts where our main character was within the psychiatric facility, meeting new people, that sort of thing. I really enjoyed that sort of side of it. But I was a little bit disappointed by the ending. I just felt that it was a little bit rushed. I think there could have been more that could have been done with it. I'm not saying that I saw the twist come in, but I wasn't like blown away by it either. So my next book that I think is overrated is a romance book, and this one hurts my heart because it is a hockey romance, and that is Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. I read this one with my sister. I wasn't enjoying it. I was reading it, I was just struggling to get through it, to be honest. Like I said, we were buddy reading it, so we got to one day and we were like, look, rather than doing 30 pages a day, should we just try and get through it? And we did. We got through it within that day, and I did end up rating this one 4 stars. However, I just didn't like it. Coming to think of it, like if I was to change my rating now, it probably would be more of a 3 star. I just didn't like. I loved Nate as our main character. I wasn't a fan of Anastasia. I was very sympathetic for her. Obviously, she was going through a lot, that sort of thing. But I just didn't like the way that she was treating Nate. I didn't like the way that she led him on a lot of the times. Yeah, I really struggled to read about her. So sadly, I think it's overrated. I've definitely read a lot better hockey romance since. One is actually one that I'm going to be mentioning soon. But yeah, I do have Wildfire. I am going to be picking that one up because hopefully I will enjoy that one a bit more, because I really did like the writing style, and you know, the smutty scenes and things like that were also very good. And there were parts of this book that I did enjoy, but they were mainly to do with Nate. So yeah. And finally, my overrated book is a fantasy read, so please don't come for me for this one. But it is Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. Now, I was like everybody else, and I just could not wait to get my hands on a copy of this one. It completely blew up. Everybody was excited about it, and I just couldn't wait to get stuck in. Then we got to 200 pages in, and I didn't feel like this was the same sort of story that I'd read from Fourth Wing. I felt like there was so much filler in here that just wasn't necessary. And then I also felt that something exciting was happening, and it was building, and I was really excited, and I loved what was going on. And then it just fell flat. There's certainly some scenes within this book that I absolutely loved. One particular scene has stuck with me, and I have remembered it. However, I was actually debating whether I wanted to carry on with this series. I have decided now that I am going to carry on because I am going to give it a chance. But I wasn't that surprised with the ending. It didn't sort of take me by, like, I wasn't shocked. But yeah, and it was so long, and I don't think it needed to be this long. But yeah, like I said, there were some scenes in here that I absolutely loved, but there was also some scenes in here that I absolutely hated. So I did rate this one at 3 stars in the end. Yeah, that's all I can say about it. Please don't come for me. On to the books that I think are worth the hype. And there are some books on this pile that are my absolute favourite. Starting off one of my favourite series, and that is Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. I absolutely fell in love with this series. I haven't met a person yet who hasn't absolutely loved this book, and I get it. It's amazing. Her writing style is incredible. It is just like reading a fairy tale. The way that she writes her characters and the way that she writes her worlds and the magic and everything that has gone into this book, you can just tell that so much love has gone into writing this series. So that is a book that I definitely always recommend. Definitely worth the hype. Love it. Moving on. So one of my books that I do think is absolutely worth the hype, which is, considering what we've just talked about with my overrated books, this is Fourth Wing. I absolutely love this one. This is why I was so disappointed that I didn't enjoy Iron Flame, because I absolutely fell in love with this book. I physically could not put it down. It was one of those books where I felt that I wasn't reading. I felt like I was there, and I was just, it was like a film, and I just loved it. I loved that we were straight in there with the story from the get-go. I loved all the different things that happened within this book and the dragons and everything, and I just loved it, and I constantly recommend it, and it is one that I recommend that people start with if they are new to fantasy. And I loved it so much, and I definitely think that this one is worth the hype. I just wish that Iron Flame had lived up to that as this one did. Next is another fantasy, and this one went wild as well. It went crazy, especially when the second one was coming out. Like the Fairy Loot editions and stuff were going crazy. People were selling these books for stupid money on Vinted because everybody just loved it. I'm not sure if they were aware of how much this one would blow up, but it did, and it was wild. And I get it, I can see why. And that book is Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. Again, there aren't many people that I've met that haven't absolutely loved this one. Again, this one is absolutely beautifully written. The World War vibes within this one, and the letters and the magic system and the typewriters and these two characters. Everything about this series was amazing. I loved book 2 just as much. I 100% think that Divine Rivals is worth the hype. And again, it's another good starting point for if you're new to fantasy, because it's not too complicated. The magic system's like really easy to follow, and the characters are really easy to follow, and even the side characters within this one really made it for me. Amazing, great story, definitely worth picking up. Moving on to my last do I think these books are worth the hype? And it's a big fat yes. This is, rather than just one book, this is a couple of books from this author, because every single one has been worth the hype, and that is no other than Sarah J Maas. I absolutely think that these books are completely worth the hype. I read Court of Thorns and Roses about 3.5 years ago, something like that, and I absolutely fell in love with it then. I then read Throne of Glass, and I read Crescent City. Absolutely worth the hype. There is a reason that you see everybody reading these books. You can see why people are just starting the ACOTAR series, and they are starting their Sarah J Maas journey. And I won't lie, I am very jealous that people are reading these books for the first time. I have read ACOTAR now a couple of times because I absolutely love it, and I am currently rereading the Throne of Glass series. I am on Empire of Storms at the minute. And I've also reread Crescent City as well, because they're amazing. They are completely worth the hype. They are amazing for people who are new to fantasy, but also love more adult reading, because there are definitely some adult themes within these books. And yeah, the way that Sarah J Maas writes her characters, writes her worlds, everything, her story, her magic. I know I keep saying that about most of these books, but this is basically what I'm looking for when I'm reading these fantasy books. Yeah, amazing. Do yourself a favour, definitely pick it up, 100% worth the hype. Quickly, I'm going to talk to you about a couple of books that I think are underrated. These are some books that I've absolutely fell in love with, and I don't see them about enough, which is such a shame, because when I've been reading them, I have 100% loved them. Amazing. But like I said, I just don't see them around, which is just, it's a shame. Book that I think is underrated is a series that I'm currently reading, and that is the Consider Me series by Becca Mack. I have absolutely fell in love with this series. This is a ice hockey romance, and I just love these characters so much. It's come to the point where I feel like these characters are real and I actually know them, because the way that she has written these characters, they are just so real. And the first two books have been absolutely amazing. The third book that I'm currently reading is no different. It's so good. I don't really see this one around much. I have been seeing it more on Instagram rather than TikTok, but if you're into your hockey romance, then this is definitely for you. This is like peak. It is up there at the top. I'm enjoying this one just as much as I enjoyed the Elle Kennedy series, the Off-Campus series, and I fell in love with that series. And this one is up there with that one. They are just as good. So yeah, completely underrated. Next series I think that is underrated is a series that I absolutely adore. I have currently read 7 within this series. There are 9 books out at the minute, and that is the Outlander series. You might know the Outlander TV show. Well, this is the book series. I think she started writing these in 1992, possibly. This series has always stuck with me. I've been reading it for about 2 years now. I do appreciate, like I said, they are big books. They are chunky books, but I do think that they are amazing. And I don't feel like any of the chunkiness is wasted. It is all very meaningful. And yeah, I don't really see many people reading this book, which is a shame. But yeah, definitely underrated. And I do think people would enjoy it if they decided to pick it up a bit more. That I think is underrated is a fantasy series, and that is The Prison Healer. I read this one about a year and a half ago, I think. I don't really see this one around much. I know that people that have read it have also absolutely loved it, but this is definitely a series that I think is worth picking up. It is a trilogy. There are, you know, certain aspects of this book that are just so gripping, and there's cliffhangers, and each chapter leaves you wanting more. So I definitely think this is underrated because I just don't really see it around that much, which is a shame. The last book that I'm going to talk to you about is a series as well. This is a romance series, and it is the Miles High series. I absolutely fell in love with this series a couple of years ago. Again, I don't see this anywhere, but people who I have spoken to who have read this series have absolutely loved it too. But it is a billionaire's romance, and it is about 4 brothers, and they are just amazing. The one book is probably one of my favourite books of all time, and that is the 4th book. I just fell in love with these characters. I fell in love with this series straight away, and it's definitely a book that I think a lot of people who love their romances would definitely love. Definitely underrated. I don't see it around as much, and that's just a real shame. For today's video, if you have made it this far, then thank you so much for watching, and if you're not already, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel. I would very much appreciate it, and I will be back soon with another video, so I will see you then. Thanks, bye.